How do you identify perfect squares and cubes? Imagine you find a number and wonder if it's a perfect square or a perfect cube. It's like solving a little puzzle that helps you understand numbers better. Let's explore how to spot these special numbers easily. First, perfect squares are numbers made by multiplying an integer by itself. For example, 4 is a perfect square because 2 times 2 equals 4. 9 is also a perfect square because 3 times 3 equals 9. Other examples include 16, which is 4 times 4, and 25, which is 5 times 5. To check if a number is a perfect square, you can find its square root. If the square root is a whole number, then the number is a perfect square. For instance, the square root of 25 is 5, which is a whole number. Another quick way to guess if a number might be a perfect square is by looking at its last digit. Perfect squares usually end in 0, 1, 4, 5, 6, or 9. For example, the number 1 ends in 1 and 9 ends in 9, both common for perfect squares. But remember, this is just a quick filter and not a sure test. The real check is to find the square root and see if it's a whole number. Now, perfect cubes are numbers created by multiplying an integer by itself twice more. For example, 8 is a perfect cube because 2 times 2 times 2 equals 8. 27 is another, because 3 times 3 times 3 equals 27. Other examples include 64, which is 4 times 4 times 4, and 127, which is 5 times 5 times 5. To identify a perfect cube, you can find its cube root. If the cube root is a whole number, then the number is a perfect cube. A handy tip for perfect cubes is to check the last digit. They tend to end in 0, 1, 8, or 9. For example, the number 81 ends in 1, and 127 ends in 7, but the last digit rule mainly helps narrow down options. The best way is to find the cube root and see if it's a whole number. Some numbers can be both perfect squares and perfect cubes. For example, 64 is both because it is 8 squared and 4 cubed. Recognizing these overlaps can help you understand the properties of numbers better. In algebra, perfect squares often appear as squared binomials, like the square of a sum or difference. Recognizing these forms helps in simplifying expressions and solving equations. When you understand what makes a number a perfect square or cube, it becomes easier to work with roots and identify irrational numbers. If a number isn't a perfect square or cube, its root is usually irrational, meaning it cannot be written as a simple fraction. To sum up, look for numbers that are the product of an integer multiplied by itself or 3 times. Use the last digit as a quick check, and always verify by calculating the square or cube root. These simple steps make it easier to spot perfect squares and cubes, helping you build a strong foundation in algebra and number operations.